This video is a short introduction of the new features in OpenText Gupta TD Mobile version 2.1. In this video I'm going to show you the gorgeous new UX features and the exciting new developer features and new APIs of OpenText Gupta TD Mobile 2.1. So here is a new TD Mobile 2.1 application that uses the TD Mobile 2.1 table control that allows full editing of fields, so you can update existing data, you can delete rows, and you can add entire new rows. Let me show you an example by adding a new row. So we add a new company, OpenText, city, Waterloo, country, Canada, state, Ontario, address, Park Lane, 9, zip, is something. And when I press save now, this will be saved in the backend database. You see here data row inserted successfully. I can also reload the data from the backend now and scroll to the bottom of the result, and you see OpenText has been added. Now let's try an update. Let's make this not Waterloo but Toronto, and I'm using Firefox here in tablet test mode, and save. Data row updated successfully. Reload the data from the database and move back to the bottom of the thing here, and see it fetched Toronto from the database. And now you can also test the delete. That row disappears, and now I can press save again to really delete that row in the backend or at the backend, reload the data, and now you can see that OpenText has gone completely from this table. So the new table control was handy update, insert, and delete functionality that makes application usage easier with larger screens, where users can edit values right in the table control without needing to move back and forth between different editing screen and a table control. In TD Mobile 2.1 you can now customize field values based on formula expressions. So here you see a list of values, and each of those values has been modified depending on the either status value here. So if the status is late, then I use an orange color. If the status is open, so an invoice has not been paid, I use red. And if the status is paid, then I use green. And for the value here, I just use pink and green, depending on whether nothing has been paid or if something has been paid, then it is green. So how does that look in the code? If you choose one of these columns here, we have a new button here in the properties for color mappings. You go into the edit color mappings mode, and you can choose depending on what bind field the value should be calculated. And you see that I do have a string comparison here, which is basically a JavaScript string comparison. This round bracket 0 thing here is the value itself, and I compare that value to open, late, and paid, and assign the appropriate colors. So more intuitive data representation in TD Mobile 2.1. So here's the new slider control that lets the user select a value by tapping on the screen and sliding the slider here. So currently the query is, I want to see all invoices that are larger than $2,000, and now I can change that value, and yes, as I increase that, the amount of rows decreases because less invoices fall into that category. So this is a nice new way for users to quickly select values without having to type any digits into a data field. The same control is available having a minimum and maximum value, so you can have your user set the minimum value by tapping again on the minimum part of the slider and then changing the maximum part of the slider, and you see again the amount of data changes depending on the set query conditions here. So a nice, powerful, easy entry user interface control for TD Mobile 2.1. This test application uses the new TD Mobile 2.1 table control in edit mode, and it actually reads data using REST services, updates data using REST services, deletes data using REST services, and inserts data using REST services. I want to give you a quick overview that you can change data here and submit that data back to the backend, and that will be saved to the backend via a REST service. Now let me quickly show you how that looks in the source code. If you read data, there's basically just one call that you need to do, sal json deserialize UDV, and you are calling the island web services at this URL endpoint here, and you pass in an object name, and then when that is done, you just pass the object back into the TD Mobile client side, and that's really all you need to do. For update company, just have a quick look. I'm using sal json serialize UDV, so I'm basically giving TD Mobile this object here, and it sends it serialized as JSON to this URL here. So powerful new REST API in TD Mobile 2.1 to connect your applications to any REST service provider like from SAP, OpenText, or whomever. With TD Mobile 2.1 you can now compile your apps directly to native Android, iOS, and Windows apps from the IDE. So you can switch to the Settings tab, go to the Build Settings, check Enabled Cordova Build, choose your project directory, provide the publish URL, and then in the project ribbon in compile you now have compile to Cordova. And let me start this, and now it does the creation of the native application, creating the project in Cordova, adding the libraries, and building everything for Android is done from the IDE without the need of stepping out of the IDE and running command prompts. So now it's adding the Android platform, as you can see, to our project here, and all the output is being collected in the TD Mobile output window. So yes, you can see now Cordova build completed successfully below here, and compile completed successfully. So the entire compilation and build process was successful. I can now copy that app onto an Android device and run it there. Another nice new small feature is that now included objects are marked with a little green dot here in the application object tree. You can see we have two libraries or two files that this application consists of, and the external ones are marked with a green dot. Several new events have been added to the client side to allow you more programmatic control of the client side application. So there's a new event on orientation change that you can leverage to do some processing to prepare for a change of the orientation of the device. And if the online status changes, then you will be notified as well. The events for bindings are nice so that you can react directly here. When a binding changes, you can actually code something. You can set another binding, or you can invoke a operation, or execute some JavaScript, whatever you like to do. Here is a very nice new thing for configuring your testing and production systems. In the past, you had to modify your application to change connection strings when moving from testing to production. Now we have a new section here called web.config, which is the backend configuration file that can now contain your connection string definitions. They have a value, and this value is the value for testing. And this one here, the value for publish, is the value that will be used when you publish the app. So a very nice new configuration aid. And TD Mobile will automatically pick the connection strings that are defined in the application that have the same name. We'll pick those from the list here in web.config. And you can also define your own basically variables in the web.config file and retrieve these variables at runtime. And every variable that you have defined here, like this report path, has a value. So for example, in this report path, I defined a directory where to put reports or where to save reports on the server, and this value is different for testing, staging, and for production systems. Start now to build mobile workforce applications. With Gupta TD Mobile, you just have one team, one IDE, one source for all mobile devices.